So while I was streaming yesterday, someone came in talking about like custom sprites and like the artistic thing, and I double checked like all my videos. I've done a written guide on like the process of prepping a sprite for like injecting into Crystal Clear before that was written, but I haven't really done a video on it. But also keep in mind that the same principles that like apply in this part of it also apply to other things when you're working with like Game Boy stuff. So if you're like working on a Pokemon ROM hack or like learning how to do it, this applies to that too. So like you don't have to like learn a new skill to do that. You can use the same programs that I'm going to use like here. So I've picked off a couple examples to work with basically, but for the most part, and I will be using GIMP for it. So a lot of these have already been corrected. I just went and found the ones that had issues off of the Crystal Clear Discord. And so we can work with that. And then also I've got a couple others that I've corrected myself. I've had to correct myself because they errored out. So the program I would recommend using is GIMP, and it's pretty easy to get. It's free, and really all you have to do is you go to like gimp.org, I believe, and then you just go download and download the latest one if you're on Windows or Mac, I believe, or if you're on Linux and you use Flatpak or whatever, app image, I believe they have those as well. But your distro repository should have it anyway, so all you really have to do is like install the GIMP package, and it'll be right there. See, it'll just pop up. So it should be the same name in most distros. It really shouldn't matter. But so what we're going to do, let me actually take a second and get rid of something that's probably getting in my way a little bit. Okay. So I use GIMP for a lot of stuff, and like I said, it's free, and so it's actually pretty simple. So once you like load up the template or whatever you're working on, so if I go in and I open, let's go to recently used. I can look at, let's go to the Surf Sprite. So you'll have this tool panel. I believe these side panels in GIMP, if you're installing it fresh, should be in the same window, but sometimes it used to be that they used to be separate, smaller windows, but no, I don't want that one. Okay. So the zoom, you just kind of like zoom in to where you're close enough where you can get a good view. I kind of get in a little bit close so that I can like wrap around certain pixels. So if we go over to this one, we kind of wrap in kind of close, and I'll just end up using the scroll bars like this. But so you've got this color select tool. It might be on fuzzy select at first, but I would go with select by color, and then this threshold thing, you can if you have it like up all the way, it'll like wrap more colors than you want. When you set it to 0, it will only get the absolute colors that you're looking for. So if I like click on the black here, so the important part that I'm looking for is inside this black square on the template, and everything in the contents of those black squares. So these black squares are situated where they are on purpose for a reason. And so if we go across, we can see that it looks like all... Might want to get in closer sometimes, but you're looking to see that like all the black squares are enclosed in the selection box. And usually, most of the time what I've seen is black has been like the problem color the problem color that nobody notices. Sometimes it's a white or a gray, but usually most of the time when I've worked with it, it's been a black that's been the problem. So I may have missed one here and there. So this front sprite is going to be a little bit weird for some people because of the coloring, but this is because it's mostly using it for picking out colors in essence. So if we go and pick on the green, then we can get this one out of the way as well. So sometimes what you run into is white being a problem. So the reason why you are limited to the black and white and then like 2 other colors is because that's the Game Boy limitation. So that's why these principles apply the same to any other sprite work when working with Game Boy ROM hacks or so on. So again, we're going to go through and we're going to look for any squares that might be missed out on in the white this time, because that's our selected color. And I think I may have accidentally downloaded a good version of it, which is just fine. It gives you a good example of what things are going to look like, ideally. So okay, and then we can go to the darker color. So you've got a darker and a lighter color, and the image processing program will sometimes will automatically differentiate between those two, and it'll pick the darker color for one and the lighter for the other, and it tries to auto detect in the front sprite what the lighter color is and the darker color, so it extracts the palette from that front sprite is what it does. And yeah, okay, and then we go to the lighter color. So like in this case, depending, sometimes what'll happen is it'll pick out the color you want for your extra details as the skin color, and so it looks really weird once it's injected. But yeah, that's kind of how it works. It's not perfect, but you know, you try. And normally in most ROM hacks, you're basically denoting the colors. A lot of times you're noting out colors manually, or there are actually programs. Well, the programs that underlie the whole process are the same ones that you'll use in like any Pokemon ROM hacking, like with Poke Crystal and what all. And so it'll automatically detect those colors. It can pull the palettes from front sprites, and so when you're working with like Pokemon back sprites and front sprites, it's going to be correct every time. So that one had no issues. I believe this one did, if I recall. Come on, buddy, don't be mean to me. Let me zoom in a little bit better. Okay, so we've got that one. I mean, the other option is that the alignment was slightly off, so the program underneath basically extracts the images from certain coordinates and based on certain sizing, the specific sizing of each of the sprites. So that's why it may be a little bit weird too. So I thought I picked one with imperfections. What the heck, guys? Supposed to show the process off. Yeah. Someone did too good a job at their stuff. So I am not sure why it would... unless I somehow got a good one on accident, which is possible. Like I said, normally the black boxes have been problem ones in my whole time messing with sprites and all. So you're just kind of trying to make sure everything is uniform and lined up. So occasionally you get it being like one of the gray colors, but most of the time the grays that stay pretty the same because what the Gameboy Color does is it takes a grayscale image and says, okay, replace this lighter gray with one color, replace that darker gray with another color, and that's what it does. And then the white is always transparent. So you perceive only like 3 colors, but there are like 4. Because that white background is transparent. So if you want white in your sprite, you have to make one of the grays a white color. I thought you were imperfect. Okay, so if I go in here, this is one that again had issues that I had to correct. So normally what I would do is, actually, can I find a different one? Give me a second to find one that's messed up. So having a hard time finding a good messed up one. But basically what I would recommend doing is if, for example, you're using the template, what you can come in and do is you basically select a color, like the color the black. Maybe you select the main black, and then you grab the eyedropper tool, and then you just kind of like get your black there in the square. So let me switch it around. And so you can see I've got the selected area. The eyedropper tool in GIMP will only like work in an area that you have selected. So if I go over to the gray, you can see it doesn't. Oh, it does. Never mind. The eyedropper does whatever it wants. But if you make sure that you select inside the selected area, and then you go to select a new area. So if we select by color, let's pretend that this gray box for a second is like our off black that isn't quite, right. So what we do is we take the fill bucket after we've selected our off black color that is not part of the standard black. Then we make sure that we have fill hole selection selected so that all of that black that is ever so slightly off, we get all that in one go. And what it'll do is it'll fill in all the spaces. You can see it's messed up all the darker gray across all the sprites because that's what was selected. So we'll undo that. And so that will correct that black. Again, this concept applies to every other color. So if you have like a slightly off gray, you can go in, pick the eyedropper tool, you select your gray, and then you go back to the color select tool is the way I would recommend it because it makes it easier. You select the off gray that you want to be that same gray, and then you just fill the bucket in. And then you've got a gray. And it's a lot easier than like copying and like going in and just zooming in real close and wrapping around like 2 or 3 boxes and then copying, pasting into places. And sometimes the eyedropper doesn't seem to want to work with some things. I don't know why. So sometimes it may be necessary to copy and paste, but copy and paste makes it really easy if you're like splicing sprites together to do that. So if you're working on a new sprite, then copying and pasting can be handy for you. But you always want to make sure that you have the same 4 colors, which is why this palette grid is here, is so that you can come up, get your color picker, make sure you've got the right black, go over all the blacks and make sure that it's good. Kind of like I showed you, you select the black, or maybe you, for the color picker for a little bit, you increase the threshold ever so slightly enough to get all those black squares, and then fill in the whole selection. And then you go by, you take the gray, and then you make sure all of your darker grays are in the correct places and all uniform. And then so on to the next one, and then finally to the white. So it makes it really simple to keep things together, so you stay within that color limit, and then when you upload it to the injector, let me go grab the link key for that one. Yeah, PP to open new tab, you know. So now we can just roll in, and we select our ROM. We select, oh wait, no, this is the wrong side. Okay, so we can go into the injector, open, and then we can go to our character template. We'll go with the slug. And then we should be able to inject without any errors if we've done everything correctly. Heh. Okay, I thought I looked over that. But if we pick... Oh, where did I put those custom sprites? I have a bunch. So you can see it actually tells you, like, gives you pretty good error messages. So let me see if do I have... Actually, our Space Marine should work just fine. So now it'll be successful, and then you can go so you can download it, save it, and it'll work just fine as long as you go through that proper process. And then, of course, if you're one of those picky people that doesn't like to do things, you can always go through and add in everything manually yourself with each individual piece. So basically what this injector does is it pulls the whole template apart and converts everything into it. So that's why you have the option to do the individual images rather than the whole template itself. But for uploading purposes and simplicity, it's a lot easier to use the template. But if you can keep 4 colors straight in each individual image, then you're fine, which is somewhat easier to do than across a whole image itself and keeping track of it. So, and like I said, those same tools that are used in the injector are used, if I can, are basically used in romhacks anyway. So if I go into, into the tools folder here, you've got the graphics, which is kind of the program that does most of the graphics processing, changes the PNG to the right 2-bit image thing so that it can be put into the thing. And then in certain cases, like images are compressed and whatnot in certain ROM hacks. When it comes to the custom sprites and Crystal Clear, I don't believe that's necessarily the case. I don't remember exactly because of how widely varied the size of compression can be. But yes. that is how you work with injecting sprites and whatnot into Crystal Clear, and also prepping your sprites properly for ROM hacking. And if we actually go and look at our graphics folder over here, basically, let me actually... So if we go into, say, the Pokemon, you're killing me, buddy, in Hop-Ip, you can see we've got the back sprite and the front sprite, the animated stuff, and it's converted and compressed and everything else. You've got code for everything. So all the graphics basically run the same way as your character sprite will. So, and it's, like I said, separated out differently that way. So yeah, if you found this helpful, if gave you some good insight into it, a lot of people in the Crystal Clear's Discord seem to have a good grasp on that now. But for anybody that's newer to it, that's how you inject more pigs into Crystal Clear and into your other ROM hack projects that you decide to do down the road. And yeah, links and stuff, description for my stuff, and I will see you guys later.